Welcome to Love and Live Abundantly. I'm Ilona.
I'm Bill. Do you want to love more effectively?
Do you want to live fully and love more courageously?
We talk about what all that means
and how you can achieve it.
Join us. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. William Mock, Bill Mock, and this is my buddy here, Ilona Polka, and we're back with another scintillating session here. The thing was that last time we got to talking about conditioning and trauma response and its effects on current behavior, and we got rolling along with a couple of little side trips, but we got rolling along pretty good on it and decided that, gee, we need to come back to that topic this week. So I hope I got that right. Is that correct, Ilona?
Yes. Yep. You got it right.
All right.
We're on the same page, Bill.
Well, that usually happens.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Go ahead.
No, you go on.
Oh, all right.
You had a bunch of notes over there.
I'm sorry?
You had a bunch of notes over there.
Yes, there was a thing that we ended on last time where we were talking about conditioning, and you gave an example in your life, I gave an example in my life, and it's important really to stress that that what we do today is really a kind of a mosaic of a bunch of tiles that got put together in our lives as we were coming along. And so what you see today is a picture of all those tiles that got put together from the day I was born. And most of them are good. Most of them are. But there's a couple of clinkers in there. And the other point that we made last time is those clinkers tend to be in there. And your experience, my experience is that people who talk to us about this say, I didn't know that. I'm unaware. I don't. And we made the point when we finished that the stuff that's not working for us lives in our lives at an unconscious level, that we're not aware that they're happening. And that sometimes what we need is coaching from somebody like you, or that we need to have another trauma in our lives today that gets our attention, that says, oh, okay, this is sort of kind of like what happened before. Okay, I get it now. But we're not conscious of all the stuff that makes us work on a minute-to-minute basis. And the ones we need to start getting conscious about are the ones that are screwing us up today. And I know that that's the work you do, is helping people look at that and see, what is this clinker in my life?
Yeah, I mean, the title of our podcast is Love and Live Abundantly. And if you do not feel that you are loving and living abundantly, then there's something in your life that is holding you back. I mean, it can be a whole variety of things, relationships, financial freedom, emotional well-being, spirituality. I think everybody has the opportunity to live that life if they're given the tools, and that's why, when I see homeless people, I don't know if that's the correct term or, whatever.
It's hard to be politically correct anymore.
Yeah.
Well, let's just go with it.
I think about, wow, if they would have learned some of the tools that I get to teach some people, would that have made a difference in their life? Because I feel that these tools are, it's not in the curriculum, right? It's not in our educational curriculum for children to learn how to use their breathing, how to, have different tools, how to feel, how to be emotional. I think, there's some classes that I've heard where with kids today where they are a little bit more emotional and aware of that. Um, However, giving people those tools I feel is so essential. To be able to know that you have the strength and power within you, regardless. If you're clear and you're committed and you have the support will show up, I feel. Right, like if you're committed, then all of those things will come to you. If you set your clear intention. It doesn't matter what you've been through, and to, take the, put the hammers down, in a coaching program that I worked in. It was, you have your tool belt, well, and then you have all the hammers hanging off of your tool belt, and it's holding you down and it's keeping you from moving forward, because you keep beating yourself up, so like put the hammers down.
Mhm.
And everybody has gone through something, believe me. Not everybody's life is peachy, no matter what they make it seem to be on social media. Everybody's got trials and, things that they go through, but just having that little bit of hope could,
Mhm.
just a little bit of hope, and you will find your way. There are tons of tools out there and resources for people.
Well, some of the more unfortunate cases that I've had to deal with are folks who can't take that chance. They can't take, and they previous attempts at taking that chance to look fearlessly at something and to make a change, to try something new, hasn't worked out for them. And the reason it seems like the predicate, the thing that's necessary first, is that they should come to trust that the person who is approaching them, that's talking to them about this scary stuff, can be trusted, and that they're not somebody who is approaching them about this scary stuff who will do to them whatever it was that taught them that this is scary stuff. And in my business, I coach a lot of folks in my business. I've trained a lot of folks to do counseling and psychotherapy. And one of the things that is really difficult, uh, and to get into people's minds, is that, maybe you need to go slow. I know you're brilliant and you figured out what their problem is, and you're going to throw it right up there and say, come on, let's get to work on this. But that's scary, and that scares people away, and that, believe it or not, further traumatizes them. And I know you don't want to do that, but that what really needs to happen is this relationship has to be made, one that seems to be trustworthy, and that risks need to be taken more slowly than in great big chunks. You don't eat a whole meal in one mouthful. You take it a little bit at a time, nourish a little bit at a time. And I'm not sure where to go with that, but that's an observation that stands alone.
Well, I think it's just, having the knowledge, right? I think the awareness is the first thing. And, you know, whether you have experienced childhood trauma or adult trauma, I don't know anytime I read statistics on, I feel like it's not ever 100%, because you always have people that will never, ever admit that they experienced childhood trauma. There's trauma with it, even admitting that. So we will never really have a true number, but I feel like it's most people. And and it doesn't even have to be family, right? Like for me in school, I think I mentioned this on one other episode, but I had brought in a wrong assignment in sixth grade. And she gave us the homework on a Friday on a long weekend, and I didn't care. I was a kid, and so I brought in the wrong item. And she yelled at me in front of everybody, and I wanted to crawl up and die. Go in the corner and die. Like that was how I felt as a, and so even stuff like that, I feel, right, how did that show up in my life? Well, now I'm at the front row of every class that I'm in, because I want to be heard. However, I could have, and perhaps I did, for a few years when I was younger, shy away from speaking, right? Or sharing because I was yelled at by the teacher. So whatever that is, it's always our perception. And, our brains tend to go more towards the negative for some people, right? And that's why I work with people where we're rewiring, we're retraining your brain to, think more positive thoughts. So much so that now when I don't have anything going on, I'm singing that song, that positive song, that I've listened to for the last year. That comes to my mind when I am not thinking anything, right? Like that is my default thinking, not the negative. And so just, people knowing that there are tools out there. I mean, either working with one of us or, there's tons of resources on the internet, on YouTube, for people to begin their journey. One of the first things that, I did was in 2006, I watched The Secret. And it was a really crazy time in real estate. 2006, the market here was unbelievable. And I had taken the authors that were on The Secret and I started Googling them or, looking them up on YouTube and listening to their insight, which really opened up all different avenues for me, to learn.
Mhm.
So, you know, the trauma responses that we've discussed, they don't have to hold you back. Even the conditioning, there are things that you can do to, to not do that. And I feel like that could be every day.
Mhm. Yeah.
It can be so in in inbred in us or deep within our, soul that every day we have to do something, positive or, or the opposite of that negative, right? To move towards our dreams and goals.
It's interesting that you're talking about folks who tend to see things in a negative sense. Uh, the folks I know who tend towards that uh, in a big way, uh, they tend to be distrustful of people who are happy all the time, thinking that what is wrong with that person? That's really phony, because their natural state is to be hyper vigilant. That if the way I tend to think is in the negative, then the world's a dangerous place, and you should not ought to trust what's going to happen next, and that if you're not careful, you can get run over by that bad thing, whatever that is. And as we've said before, you don't have to know what that is to get to feel like you've been run over by it. Yeah, I that hypervigilance is there's that old saying, nobody likes me, everybody hates me. I think I'd go in the garden and eat worms. That's hypervigilance, because everybody that in your world has a capacity for hurting you. And if you get to that point, if it's that extreme, then the world is really a sad and unsafe place. Um,
And I go back to what was the trauma that they experienced to have that belief? right? Like something had to have happened for somebody to distrust people and the world.
What one of two things, either a major set of traumas or just formal conditioning. I mean, I know, I know families where they are just the whole that the family ethos, the family motto is don't trust anybody, you'll get screwed.
Mhm.
And
Well,
if you grow up in that kind of a circumstance, that's what you bring into adulthood and learning to trust like you promote with folks, learning to feel happy and comfortable in your own skin. That's a tough place to go because they've never been there before. They haven't even had that experience.
yeah, it's funny that you bring up the trust and so it automatically made me think about from New York. Like New Yorkers, we don't really trust people. We're always looking around, right?
Mm,
And that I do feel like that is a benefit. I don't exclude people entirely. However, I feel that I can look at things a little bit differently. And I'm grateful for that. I don't want to trust everybody. Um, and I think too, it's, like another example that I think of you know, is being loyal to people. Like I was taught that I should be loyal to my family. They're my family. They're my family, like you should be loyal to your family. And so then that took me to be loyal to people who didn't respect me, right? To also then attracting friends who didn't respect me
mm,
and being loyal and still staying loyal to them.
yeah.
Right? And where does that get me? It got me in a position where I stayed somewhere longer than I should have. And then I started becoming resentful
Hmm.
because of the loyalty, because I was the please and appease, right? I wanted to make everybody else happy. One instance, this woman had done amazing things for me. I was going to be loyal to her till the day I died. That's really what I thought. And oh no, the universe had a different plan for me. So, and though it in that, right, and then stop being loyal to people who don't deserve it necessarily, then other doorways open, right? So
Mm.
doing the hard thing and taking that risk and, you know, that hope that you have, it's there for a reason because you were meant to have more in your life to overcome things. I mean, Bill and I know I could have a quite lengthy conversation on all of the lessons that I've learned throughout life from taking a risk and from, getting out of my own way and getting out of my limiting beliefs.
It One of the things I know that you do, you run small groups where you discuss these kinds of issues, and one of the things that I think helps, as we've been talking about, this stuff happens to us unconsciously and automatically. One of the things that helps is to be sitting in a group of people and where, gee, their situation's sort of kind of similar to mine. So, oh, wow. And they've made this change. Oh, and they're trying this new thing. Well, maybe that's something I could maybe ought to try. And it's very difficult sitting there in your own stew and trying to come to that awareness and to make those kind of changes. Very difficult. And it's also difficult to seek out the people who are making those changes so that they can be your role models. Because I've actually had clients say to me, well, what you're asking me to try might actually change me. And maybe I won't like what I get changed into. I mean, this is bad enough, but I know it. And I've developed some coping mechanisms for it. But now you're asking me to take a risk? Well, I think people are more willing to take a risk if they see that there are other people sort of kind of like them who've taken similar risks and are still on one piece and they're looking pretty wholesome and pretty whole.
You
Yeah.
know, it reminds me, we talked a couple of weeks ago about my mom's birthday party and how the people that showed up were from a personal development class that
Mhm.
I had done. And yes, absolutely. I mean, the many courses that I've taken there and I've, helped facilitate as well. Um, it's knowing that you're not alone, that that just because I may have not said a word to you the whole entire week, but because you were in the same class as me and we experienced the same thing, I feel connected to you. I know that you've done the work, you've been through the experiences, there's no judgment, because that's just the space that is held there. Now I think that there's people who can, go through the process and not necessarily be open to the teachings. I've had that where, you know, people like to think that they might want to be healed, but what they have to go through for that healing, they want to just skip over. And it it's not quite possible. And that you're not always right, right? Like what we how we think that the world is, or I always say too, like if you have a goal, the way that you can achieve that goal is your thinking. However, there could be 10 other ways that you can achieve that same goal. And that's why being in community is important too, to be around those people who have experienced the same thing as you. But also, leaning in and realizing that there are other people that may, you may get to your goal quicker. They may have thought of something that you didn't necessarily take into consideration. I think about like becoming a parent. I think there should be like a board of advisory, right, for parents to have some real insight, right? Not just take a parenting class, but to have those board of directors to lean on when making decisions with their life, because their way isn't the only way.
Mhm. Yeah. That's coming from an incredibly small community. That resonates with me because um, in my incredibly small community, everybody was your parent, and everybody was given permission to tell you that you were getting out of line. And also, I remember as a kid hearing my aunts and uncles talk to each other about their frustrations and about their celebrations in raising their kids and swapping information that way and getting validated. And I just did something terrible, I think, and having somebody else say, "Oh no, no, no." No, the kid is still upright and eating solid food. That is not a problem.
My sister, I think I was 11 when my first nephew was born. I don't know, somewhere along the line, I don't know if it was my sister or not, but somebody had dropped the baby and not very far. It was like off of the couch, but then it was like, oh, Betty did that. Oh, Ann did that. Like, and the big kid is fine. It's not a big deal that you dropped the kid once. And, like hearing it the first time, I was like, what? And then it was like everybody else had done it. So it's okay. It's not the end of the world.
That's right.
Um,
You're not a bad parent.
yeah, and you're not a bad person for the experiences that you had, or the things that you've done. You can, make different choices. I say change your choice. You've got to change if you want to change your life, you get to change your choice.
Now that brings us to you've got to have the incentive, the courage to make that first admission. And I could see you being so ashamed that you dropped your kid that you would be too ashamed to share that with somebody. And we come back to that circle back to that trust thing. That I trust that if I tell you this, you're not going to reject me or throw me in jail or call social services or ostracize me or tell the priest or any of those terrible things that might happen. I trust you, and that's the big one. Yeah, and it's hard to. One of the trust things is that's really hard for folks who come to me is if I try these new things that you're suggesting I do in place of the things I've automatically and unconsciously always done, will I still be an okay person? Will I be a person that I would recognize? Would I be somebody that I would like? Or will I be changed forever and ever and ever? One, I had an old coach years ago who kept reminding me because I'd get frustrated that people, I'm so brilliant and they wouldn't do what I said. He kept reminding me, all change is scary. All change is dangerous. And people, whether you know it's positive or not, it's change and it's scary and you're asking a whole lot. So you need to be patient. The other thing he said that I thought related to something you said earlier, and that is, I give them the information. I even give them some really cool coaching. And they seem to make a decision to stay stuck in their in their problem, in their issue. And they don't want to change. And that same coach said, you know what? Sometimes people have to hear the same message from compelling enough voices and often enough before they can hear it and before they can get motivated and moved. And he said, just because they didn't do it right after you, that just means that you were one of those voices that they need to hear before it can happen.
Yeah.
And the other thing he said to me was, if you say something and do something and help people in some way and they make some changes that they feel good about, don't get such a big head about it. You were just one of a number of people in other circumstances that helped them to get up to that place where they could feel good enough to take a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes it takes somebody that they look at and say, all right, I trust that person. I don't know why, but they come across as somebody I should trust. And sometimes I might just look like somebody in their life during an earlier trauma that they learn not to trust. There's no way I can know that. I just got to do the right thing and trust that it's going to happen often enough in the person's life that someday they'll make the right decision.
Yes.
Boy,
For
I got on a roll
me,
there, didn't I?
yes, you did. No, it was good. Lots of nuggets. You know, for me, I had attended a 3-day seminar, and after the first day, you know, it was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea how I was holding myself back. And I jumped in like full 150%. I was in. And that's but like you're saying, there had been other things before that that led up to me being totally open to that, right? It was the secret, 9 years before. And then everybody that I had listened to up until that point that got me to the place of being so open. And then even from there to here, right? Like it took courage and intention to get from there to heal myself and then help heal others.
It was interesting that we've talked about this before, and that's about that seminar, and it really drives home that usually when you make that breakthrough, it happens when you're in a safe place with safe people to try that out. Uh, and and I remember when you shared that with me before, how liberating that was for you, and how you could take that chance in that place. Now, you might not have done it on a Tuesday afternoon in a class somewhere about algebra, but in this place, with these people, with this topic, and with others taking similar chances, it was a safe place. Yeah.
Well, and they did exercises to enforce that safe place,
Mm.
right? There were team exercises where I had to lean on the team. And so then that then helped me go to the next couple of days, right? So they built up that trust as went along. And I feel like that's even what I do in my coaching program, right? We start at the basics. I'm not going to ask you to pour your heart out to me the first time we meet, you know. Well, I may make you fill out an application to tell me a little bit about yourself, but other than that, um, it's creating that safe space for people, right? And if you don't have that somebody that you feel safe with, um, reach out. There's groups that will help people just like you. And we don't want you to get in any cults or anything crazy like that. But lean into your family and friends and loved ones. And keep that hope. You've got that hope for a reason.
Mm.
And I think we're just about ready to wrap
I was
up.
just gonna ask you that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, great minds think alike.
Can, yeah, right. Absolutely. Uh, The next time we probably ought to pick this back up again next time, because I'm bursting to say a few more things, and I know you are too.
Okay.
So in connection with that, can I suggest that if you're listening to this and you have a question or a comment, or you threw your hands up and you were screaming at the speaker, um, could you give us feedback? We really would like to hear from you. And I promise you that we will read all of it. And in those cases where it seems appropriate for us to respond or to speak back, we'd like to do that. And the way we can do that best is for you to contact us at hello@truthbetold.world. I'm going to say that again because it's a lot. Hello@truthbetold.world. See you then.
Thank you. Reach out. We want to hear from you.